Welcome to Bet On It, the college edition. Thank you guys for sharing, so many comments with us, so much positivity, the overwhelming success of our NFL Bet On It show. We decided to add the college version. This is week 2. We got some making up to do, boys. I don't know about you guys.
I got crushed on Saturday.
I got absolutely slaughtered last week. We probably should have just started this week 1. Of course, that's how it works. As you guys know, I'm your host, Kelly Stewart. Tonight we're going to break down this week's college football card with Gianni, the Greek gambler, and Marco D'Angelo. Okay, you guys ready to get this week started?
Absolutely.
Ready to look for some prime time Saturday football games? Why are we talking about this first game?
I know you'll be watching it. It's a 3:30 game. It's on ESPN, and you've got...
How come this game's on ESPN, but Oklahoma State was on ESPN+? Can someone riddle me that? All right. Here's K-State back at home, off a bye, loses their ass in Stillwater. Baylor, who I had last week, looked good. And then all of a sudden decided to just let the Cyclones waltz back in. They did get the win. They did get the cover. But still, this is not a side that I love either, and maybe I might talk myself into Kansas State. Marco, when you pulled in the parking lot earlier, I was actually doing my Kansas State podcast with the guys from GoPowerCat.com, and he said, I know you like K-State this week. Yeah, now that it's down to -1, I think we may even see him close a pick'em. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to start with you. This one is intriguing because of, I believe, a lot of letdown. A lot of the public was on K-State and Sharp Guys on K-State at Mississippi State. And then last week, once it got to 4.5, we saw some buyback even at 4 on Oklahoma State. Your thoughts on the Wildcats and can they handle the Baylor Bears?
Well, you know, what ended up happening with Kansas State is they got into the top 25. And how many times have we seen these teams, and I think our buddy Ralph actually sent out a stat, these teams that just crack the top 25 so often, it's the fat and sassy effect. I mean, let's face it, they weren't expected to do that this year. Your beloved coach retires, and, we thought the ship would go down. And
I didn't think the ship was going to go down. When you get a coach like Chris Klieman from North Dakota State, the problem is I don't know about coaching at this level. I think he flat out got out-coached.
He did, but
especially kicking down 20.
When you replace a legend, okay, we're seeing another school with the same example would be Virginia Tech. Justin Fuentes, he come in with a lot of fanfare, revitalized the Memphis program. Everybody loved him coming in, and finally we thought we're going to see offense at Virginia Tech, and they're in decline now the last couple of years. It's always hard being that first guy to take over for the legend, and Bill Snyder, obviously a legend at Kansas State. But it's getting to last week's game. For once, I actually was happy a kicker missed a kick because it set us up no matter what was going to happen, barring a pick 6 or something from Baylor. When they did fall behind after blowing the 20-0 lead, because they missed the extra point, it was sitting on 20 instead of 21. When Iowa State rolled back and went ahead 21-20, we were getting the 3, and that was just fine. I would have went with it either way, but Baylor did come back and get the outright win. I like the stuff that Coach Rule's doing at Baylor. I thought it was a big statement from him when he left Temple to go there. He was a hot commodity. He turned the Temple program around, and he went to a school that was in just total disarray with all of the problems they had on and off the football field, and he decided to go there and build a program, and that was a monumental win for them last week. Even though beating Iowa State, they've started the season 4-0, and they're buying into his system, and just like he did at Temple, he's got a nasty defense, and now he's going to be facing a Kansas State team that, to be honest, Kelly, they've played well, but offensively, they're still offensively challenged.
Very vanilla.
And I can't get excited about it. The knock is, does Baylor have that letdown after last week? I don't think he's the type of coach that's going to let his team let down. I like him here. Kansas State got to feel a little bit deflated. They were, like I said, flying high, fat and sassy. They got a dose of reality last week, and a lot of times after you get that first loss, there's a little bit of a carryover the next week.
So VR, a lot of people don't quite get what you do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you get access to back-end accounts. You help get lots of money down for some of these other guys. So we saw this line open, K-State -2.5, now K-State -1. Are they setting themselves up to bet bigger amounts on K-State? Is this sharp money pushing this line down? What are we seeing here with this line move?
Great question. Here's what I see going on here. This is a simple case of betting syndicates with the power to manipulate the betting market, setting up both sides of this game. because
Okay.
the sharp money that I saw come in was taking the Baylor side plus on the money line.
Oh, okay.
Now, as this line drops, if Baylor becomes the favorite, now you're not middling this game, you're scalping it.
Oh, yeah.
They do this all the time. When the line's below that 3, when it's around that 1.5, 2, and they could get it to swing the other way, they're not looking to middle that game. They're looking to scalp it. They're looking to get Team A at plus 115, Team B at plus 105. And when you're getting down tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, that 5 cents on every dollar adds up to profit. So for me, I would not consider the Baylor side a steam move, a legit move by any stretch. Personally, I think the line's where it should be. I mean, power rating wise now, I think it's where the line is fair. I don't think there's really value on either side. I like the Kansas State side personally. I haven't bet it, but I think that's the right side at home. Listen, I bet Kansas State over season wins. So for me, hopefully they get there at that over 5.5. But Baylor coming into the season, they were expected to win 8 games. They were 7.5 with the over favored. So them being 4-0 is not a surprise. It was a good win at Iowa State against Iowa State. But when you win by 1, 2, 3 points, there's randomness involved to that. I mean, it could have went the other way very easily. So for me, I think there's a little value on that Kansas State side. Again, not line value, but I think it sets up, the situation sets up, coming off a loss, playing this game at home after back-to-back road games. I'd bet Kansas State or pass for me.
I want to ask you one question, Kelly. You follow Kansas State all the time. My biggest concern with Kansas State, though, is the last 2 weeks, they have gotten steamrolled at the line of scrimmage. 574 yards they've given up in the last 2 weeks on the ground. That's something we never saw with the Bill Snyder coach teams. What's happening at the line of scrimmage there?
You know, so with trying to transition from a very vanilla offense to a less vanilla offense, as I'm going to put it, because I haven't seen those big plays yet. I haven't seen anything real exciting. A couple of times against Mississippi State, a couple of times against Bowling Green. But I think what's more concerning is having that bye week in between those two and not repairing that issue on the line of scrimmage. It is concerning. Baylor's running game doesn't concern me near as much, obviously, as in Oklahoma State.
Agree.
So I will say that that's kind of there. I don't think I'm going to end up having a bet on this game. My buddy Chris went to Baylor. He and I have kind of we're going to have, you know, like a prime at Bellagio kind of dinner, which is probably close to being a nickel bet anyway. So it'll give you some action.
If you're getting alcohol on your bill.
Exactly. So as you know, VR mentioned, I too have K-State over 5.5 wins. That's a bet my dad wanted to make, and I said, well, God, I better jump right on in, you know, because otherwise I'll be pissed that I didn't. So we have that. So maybe that's just a sit back and cheer for kind of game. Marco, I'm going to go with you to the ABC Saturday night game, Michigan State at Ohio State. God, Ohio State just absolutely throttling teams. Ed Salmons did a podcast with John Murray and I on Sunday and said, hey, I'm bumping these guys up and no one's stopping me. And I'm going, okay, but where's really the justification? Is 20.5 points too many with a total of 49?
And we're seeing the total, the early money has come in on the totals come to the under. And anytime you've got a primetime game with a primetime team like Ohio State, now the public's definitely going to be buying into Ohio State. And I see the first tick on the board is on the under. John Q. Public's not betting the under on Monday.
Two teams that just come off 40-point offensive.
Exactly. So that tells you something about where this game is going, where the sharps think. And I actually agree with the under. And if you go back and look at the last 4 years between these two teams, 3 of the 4 games have been played in the low 30s. And we're looking at a total that on today's college football standard looks low. Anytime you see a 40 in college football, it's low. And for these two with the history, it's low. This is a lot of points. Ohio State's rolled over everybody, but they have not faced the defense at all. And you're going to hear all the talking heads, guys like us doing shows are going to say, well, this is the best defense they've faced. Well, it is. You can't argue that fact. And Michigan State is a team that's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, of whether or not they're going to score points or not. If their defense slows Ohio State down and gets this in to a 1 or 2 possession game, they'll stay with their game plan where they can still stay within striking distance. The only way I see this game going over the total is if Ohio State has one of those starts that they've had every week where they jump out 21-0 and then the other team has to abandon their game plan. I don't think that's going to happen with this Michigan State team. Last week's game, I know everybody's going to look and say, my God, they gave up that many points to Indiana. What's Ohio State going to do? No, they were looking ahead to this week. This is a classic situation in college football where these are 20-year-old kids. They can't help it. They were looking ahead to this game at Ohio State, prime time Saturday night. I lean to Michigan State plus the points, but I'm all over the under in this one.
Yeah, VR, I'm looking at Michigan State. I want to take Michigan State plus the points. You guys are going to laugh because maybe I just need to get thicker skin, but social media has been rough. When you have a bad Saturday like I did, and then the good Sunday doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You're
it doesn't
only
get
as good as your last pick. Just honestly, don't even.
I know.
What matters is over 500, 1,000 picks. And you're giving out picks, especially when you're putting yourself out there. You could have 3 straight winning weeks, and then you go out there, you give an 0-4, and you're going to get bashed to death. Those other 4 weeks mean nothing. Those are the recreational bettors that you shouldn't even focus on. You can't help them. It's just a matter of time. Please don't take the wrong way before they go broke.
For sure.
Because every outcome is life or death. And if you bet like that, you're going to go broke. It's just a mathematical certainty. Don't focus on them. Focus on the people that are actually, that get it, that understand it, that see that you've won more than you lost. That's valuable to a bettor. If you don't see that, then that's one. If they can't see that, then that's the wrong person to try to explain it to.
For sure, but I can hear it now.
Well, you get bashed even when you win.
Ohio State.
You had Buffalo last week, and you're getting trashed on Twitter for going against New England. Where were they when the game was over?
Because of missed PAT. That's why I won that bet.
Yeah.
I went through it with the UFC when I broke into the MMA space because they didn't know me. They're like, who's this guy? And like last week where I got killed in MMA, I think I went like 0-8, Marco. And I just got destroyed on social media. But it's like, let's overlook the last 5 years where I've just demolished the books in mixed martial arts where they won't even take a 17 parlay from me for more than $100.
Wow.
Like, there's a reason for that. So I'm going to have 0-8 days. Over 1,000 bets, you're going to have that. Don't sweat it. As far as this game goes, real quickly, I think it's simple. And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm taking Michigan State and under or leaving it alone. This line, if you wanted to bet it, before the season started, Ohio State was a 13-point favorite. Granted, they've looked great, but they've been 2-touchdown favorites or bigger every single game. So they should be 5 or 6-0, whatever they are. Let's not forget, just a couple weeks back, Cincinnati came into Ohio State and was only getting 2 touchdowns in that game. Cincinnati's who was supposed to win 7.
And they just got the hell beat out of them. Yeah. Then they go play Nebraska in Lincoln, beat the hell out of them. I mean, this line, was there a game of the year line? Does anybody know?
Yeah, 13.
Good God.
That's what I'm telling you. It's Michigan State or pass because you're not getting, even if you cash that Ohio State ticket, it's a bad bet. That's the bottom line. You're getting no value there. So for me, it's Michigan State or leave it alone, and I agree with you with the under. It's the only way to play the game.
Okay, great stuff. It's time for us to step out for a quick break, but when we return, it's time for the Steam and Trap Games of the Week.
Be sure to check out Wager Talk TV's new show, Pros vs. Joes, with Joe Ranieri, Rob Vino, and the Prez. Each week, they'll pick 5 featured TV games, 3 in college and 2 in the NFL. Listeners of the show can make picks on the same 5 games on a form found in the comment section of the show. All contestants will receive $10 in wager bucks just for entering the contest. If your record ties the panel, you win $25 in wager bucks. If you beat our panel of experts, you get $50 in wager bucks, and anyone going a perfect 5-0 will win $100 in wager bucks.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Each week, all season long, Gianni is going to give us his college Steam Game of the Week, and Marco's either going to give us his sandwich or trap game of the week. Gianni, let's start with you. Who's this week's Steam Game of the Week?
I'm going to make it easy for you, and that's game 367, Western Michigan. The group that I bet for took them at +2. It's +1 now, so I don't think the value's gone. And I'm not even going to waste any time because I'd be lying to you if I told you the reasoning for this bet because I have no idea why they bet it. I could simply tell you that multiple groups unloaded on this side, and I'm sharing that with you and letting you know it's a legit move. So I don't want to sit here and talk fluff, and this is why you should back this team because I'd be lying to you. So instead, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Multiple groups bet this side. The number, I believe, still offers value, and long-term, they've done enough damage where I'm willing to piggyback them blindly and I'm willing to do that with very few people out there, but they've won enough in college football lifetime for me to do so. So bet it or fade it, it's on you.
I like it. All right, Marco, it is now time for your trap game of the week.
Well, Kelly, for the trap game this week, I'm going to go to a team involving my hometown Pitt Panthers, and we're going to take Pitt. And Kelly, public, they've got short memories.
Of course.
They only remember what they saw last. And what they saw last was Duke on Friday night on ESPN take Virginia Tech out behind the woodshed.
It was great.
And beat the snot out of them. Then they drug them back out on the field and beat the snot out of them some more. I mean, it was crazy. 45-10 Virginia Tech. And then you look at the two games before that with Duke, a 41-18 win over Middle Tennessee State, and North Carolina A&T 45-13. So all of a sudden, Duke's a juggernaut now. And what Pitt do last week? Well, they got barely by Delaware 17-14. Guys,
That was so crazy to see that score. I'm like, what were they doing?
well, you know what they were doing? They were still celebrating party on campus in Oakland and Pittsburgh. That's where the campus is at. They beat Central Florida. That was the first team that beat Central Florida in the regular season in going back 2+ seasons. And then before that, who did they play? Their arch rival Penn State down to the wire. They were inside the 5-yard line at the end of the game, could win the game, come up short. That was as flat of a spot as you could have. And I'm sure our buddy should have talked to him, mid-major Matt. He loves those off-the-board games.
Yeah.
That was I don't get involved in those games, but man, that
No, because I can't name one player or coach at the University of Delaware.
Yeah, well, I can guarantee you they were getting more than 3 points, Kelly, and it was an easy cover for them. You'll see the real Pitt. And if you want to be honest about it, Pitt's 3-2. Look at their two losses. I already talked about the Penn State loss where they had their opportunity to win that game. And you go back to the first week of the season, and Kelly, you remember that was the game at Caesars where I told you take Virginia when you were coming out. I was in the poker room, and it was a 2-point game. It ended up being a final of 30-14. Pitt had the ball and down 2 and driving and turned it over for the second time that game. This is a very under-the-radar team. They're 3-2 and could very easily have been 4-1 or 5-0. Duke is counterfeit, in my opinion. They haven't played anybody. Virginia Tech is bad. Guys, this is not one bad game for Virginia Tech last week. This is a series of bad games, and the Sharps were all over Duke last week knowing that. I think Pitt's a live dog here, and I could have used this as the sandwich game. I could have used it as barking dogs. We could sprinkle on this. We can do whatever you want with it, but I'm calling Duke as a trap this week. If you think they're as good as they looked last week, they're not. Take Pitt plus the points.
Under, too. I like under.
Take Pitt, sprinkle some money.
All right, guys.
would do it.
Great stuff. Time for us to take a commercial break, but when we return, it's time for my favorite segment, Barking Dogs.
I'm Gianni the Greek, VR ace, what have you. We didn't have a 5% play in college football last week, but that changes this time around. In fact, I'm getting involved early and dropping the first bomb on Friday night. You may want to look into a longer subscription because we got Major League Baseball playoffs here, and I'm unloading on Thursday night's games, Saturday college football, Sunday NFL. So you want to get involved, I think, a little longer term, but that 5% play is coming on Friday.
Want up-to-the-minute scores and odds direct from Las Vegas? Then check out our Wager Talk odds page. You'll get all the latest lines along with moves as they happen from all the biggest books in Las Vegas, including Westgate Superbook, Circa, Golden Nugget, Wynn, Stations, CG, and South Point, just to name a few. Best of all, it's absolutely free.
Welcome back. You guys know this is going to be my favorite portion of every single show because I love the underdogs, and we all know Gianni likes to have that little sprinkle on the money lines. Okay, guys, talk to me about which dogs are barking this week. Marco, you first.
I'm going to go to an ugly one, Oregon State plus the points, and the reason I'm going with them, do you really want to lay points with this UCLA defense?
Baby,
No, I'm not doing it. And don't be fooled by UCLA's last two games. Yeah, they had that monster comeback against Washington State. Washington State was blowing them out. One of the biggest comebacks in college football history, which was fueled by 6 Washington State turnovers. And then last week, just an hour and a half before game time, nobody knew this. The line started crashing on the Arizona-UCLA game. I had already bet the game earlier in the week at plus 6.5. and the line ended up going off at 3.5. Quarterback Khalil Tate for Arizona, last minute scratch from the game. That changes the whole thing for UCLA. Now they don't have to face a dual threat quarterback, and they were able to stay in the game. In UCLA, even with that, they couldn't do anything against that Arizona defense that had been getting trounced. Remember what Hawaii did to that Arizona defense early in the year? I know Oregon State's defense is bad, but I'll go ahead and you look at Arizona's backup quarterback. They still threw for 352 yards. Think about it. Not only was this the backup quarterback, they didn't practice him all week. Tate was getting the snaps. He was thrown in, hey, 2 minutes before.
Hey, we're going to
get your helmet on. You're playing.
Time to play.
Yeah, time to play. I'll go with Oregon State, who put up over 500 yards of offense against Stanford. Granted, Stanford's not Stanford of old that we're accustomed to. But they still put up 500 yards on the Stanford defense. What do they do against this UCLA defense? I'm taking the points all day long with Oregon State.
Okay, VR, who you got barking over there?
I'm going to go SEC. Let's go Vanderbilt against Ole Miss. I think this Ole Miss team is really overvalued in this spot. And Vanderbilt, listen, they're supposed to be 1-3 right now. I mean, they played Georgia week 1. They had to go to Purdue in week 2, and then they came back home to meet LSU. You're going to end up 0-3 after that, regardless. But when Northern Illinois came in and they were favored by a touchdown, they won that game. Almost. They didn't cover, but they won that game. I think this is in a great spot for Ole Miss. I like Vandy. I think plus the points, and I'm always going to sprinkle if I'm going to take the points.
What's the sprinkle?
Thank you. Halloween sprinkle. Spooky sprinkles.
Yeah, that's for the
Leave
ugly.
these out
that's
for the NFL.
Ugly.
Wait till they see what I got
for the
them.
ugly dogs.
Oh, my God. Well, I don't have that ugly of a dog in that. Both of your dogs actually made my initial 3-team moneyline parlay list, so I'm in agreement with you guys. I like Northwestern here. I know a lot of people expect Nebraska to have this big bounce back, but I am not sold that Scott Frost has this team ready. Just 1-4 versus the number this year. They're life and death this last 2 years against Northwestern. If they go out there and play a flawless game, is Nebraska going to cover this number? Yes, but I think the Wildcats keep it close. This may be another overtime type game, and I think Northwestern deserves a little sprinkle. Thank you, guys. When we come back, it's time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels. Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at wagertalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at wagertalk and sportsmemo.com. Welcome back to Bet On It, where Kelly spilled coffee on her shirt during the break. It's time for one of the most popular segments, though. The NFL show, people love your TNA. So, of course, we had to bring you to the college show, Ralph. If you guys do not know Ralph Michaels, at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. Ralph just hit 10,000 Twitter followers. And really, it's a big deal because Ralph did nothing with social media. Ralph did Phil Steele. He had a Heisman vote. I mean, the man is super popular. I'm like, Ralph, you have to get a Twitter. So what's he do? He takes his database. He has his trends. He has his analysis. And he's absolutely killing it. So, Ralph, my favorite stat man, tell me what you dug up for me this week in college football.
One important note. We have 4 systems we're going to talk about. Each is specific to one game, but I want people to not just think about it for this game. Write it down, think about what it's important, and help themselves handicapping moving forward by finding these situations.
Okay.
So first we have an October situation. When you get to October, most games are conference games. But in the last 5 years, October non-conference away favorites of 11 or more have gone 22-6, 78.6% against the spread. That fits Memphis this week, laying double digits to ULM. So again, we don't often think about non-conference away favorites. We know the SEC plays their FCS foes, and a lot of people have foes coming in. But when you do have that rare instance, the away favorites have done very well.
And this is for the entire month of October?
Anytime in October, any non-conference away favorite. Now, let's look at teams that they're off a game as an away favorite where they allow 2 or fewer points. So basically, it's a shutout, but I added Penn State because they allowed 2 points last week. And if in your last game you were an away favorite and you held your foe to 2 or more points, and this week you're a home favorite of over a touchdown of -8 to -31 points, those teams have gone 37-16 against the spread, 69.8%. And if that's any home favorite, if they were a home favorite of that -8 to -31, they are actually 24-8-1, 75% against the spread. That is Penn State.
I do like Penn State this week.
That's
wow.
number 2. Number 3.
That might get me to the window, Ralph.
Yeah, again, it makes sense. You know, you were the better team. Your team did exactly what they were supposed to do, shut it out or just gave up a safety.
I know you've got 2 more for us, but real quick, just because I want to clarify something you do tweet often. You don't recommend always making a play off these situations or trends, but if it backs up what you're already looking at, then it can get you to the window, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I like Penn State, was kind of hesitant about laying that many points, but this may get me to the window.
Like I said, it's not a reason to bet Penn State. If you like it, you may like it a little more. If you liked Purdue a little bit, it may take you off a game. But just remember that situation, because that's a system-wide trend for the entire season when that happens. And it's easy to know if a team was an away favorite and gave up 2 or fewer points. There's nothing you have to look at the box score.
Perfect.
This next one is just as simple. You're a home dog this week. Last week, you were a home favorite and you were +3 or more turnovers. What does that usually mean? You had an easier game. The other team handed you the ball. You didn't have to work very hard. This week, you're a home dog and you're the inferior foe. Since 2013, those home dogs, 13-35 against the spread, 27.1%. One team fits this week. It's fade the Florida Gators or take Auburn. Florida off an easy win last week, +3 turnovers.
That's really interesting because I was looking at Florida in that game, but I said, man, this just looks awful trappy. But maybe you're right. Florida was on that positive side there. Okay, last but not least.
Teams that won their game but got outgained by 120 yards.
Okay.
A very misleading score. You were probably plus turnovers or you scored multiple special teams touchdowns. In that role, if the next week if you're a dog or you're a small favorite, plus you're -3 or a dog to 21. So anywhere in that range. 14-34 against the spread, 29.2%. That fade this week is Stanford. Whoa. So last week, Stanford won the game, but they were outgained by 100 or 20 more yards. This week, they're between a 3-point favorite and an 18-point dog, less than 30% cover when you're in that situation.
Great stuff, as always, Ralph. It's time for our last break of the show, but when we return, it's college best bet time.
Every Monday at wagertalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at wagertalk.com and our sister site, sportsmemo.com.
Hey guys, I'm killing it in college and pro football, going 23-8 the last 3 weeks with all of my plays, increasing my clients' bankrolls by over 53% in just 3 weeks. My famous 5% major wager plays, well, they've now hit 5 weeks in a row after winning our 5% this past Saturday. Baylor +3, a 23-21 outright winner. Going back to last year, we're now 9-1 with our last 10 college football 5% major wager plays. I even released my first 5% of the NFL season last Sunday when the Chicago Bears -1 got the money 16-10. My next 5% major wager play goes this Saturday. Now you can get that one play by itself for $40 or pick up a 7-day all-access package for just $99 and you'll get all of my plays. Remember, 23-8 the last 3 weeks. Check it out now on my homepage at wagertalk.com.
All right, guys, it's time for our final segment and your favorite best bets. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we got some making up to do for last week. And I'll start because I owe you guys the biggest apology because I picked Kansas State. Woo! Was that ugly. All right, guys, this week I'm going with a giant underdog. It's now down to 27.5. Utah State versus LSU. Now, I don't think Utah State's going to beat LSU. And this LSU team looks awesome. Joe Burrow. Hey, I'm saying, hey, maybe Joe's a sleeper to get the Heisman. I don't know. But how much does LSU care about this game? I'm going to say about 28 points worth. And we're going to see the back door open here with Utah State. Listen, Utah State almost pulled off an upset winner against Wake Forest in the beginning of the season. This team comes to play against Power 5 schools, and we're going to get Utah State's best game here. Well, LSU just says, hey, we're just hanging tight. We got the SEC games on deck. VR, I'm going to you next.
Yep. Who
is your best bet?
Unlike the steam play, which, again, I wasn't going to sit here and lie to you and find some fluff to support my play, this is my bet. I bet in Michigan, and actually the line's going against me. It looks like there's some sharp money coming in on the Iowa side. This opened 5.5 down to 3.5. 3.5 plus money, even money. So 3's the next number. I say wait and get -3 on the Michigan side. Bottom line is this. Sure, they lost their big game at Wisconsin, but that's what Michigan does. I mean, they don't win the big one. They lose when they, a chance to get into national championship contention. What do? Ohio State will knock them out. I mean, that's just the Harbaugh playbook. But when they meet the Rutgers, the Armies of the world, they blow them out. Now, I'm not saying Iowa's Army or Rutgers by any stretch, but let's not forget, Iowa's supposed to be in this spot pretty much. They were, 3 touchdown favorites in 3 of their 4 games. And the game they won at Iowa State, they were the beneficiary of +2 in turnovers. More times than not, you're going to win or at least cover those games. So for me, I love Michigan in this spot because we're getting a ton of line value, and we know that for fact. Because if you bet this game in September, Michigan was a 15.5-point favorite. So they were over a 2-touchdown favorite just a month and a half ago. So for me, I don't think the adjustment's warranted. It's an overreaction to them getting beat up by Wisconsin. So that gives me line value. Forget the analyzing the handicap. That alone makes me like the Michigan side. I'll lay the 3.5, 4 all day, but it's getting the 3.
Okay, hang tight. VR, any opinions on the money line?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen.
-170?
I think that's the right side.
Okay.
Why not? But honestly, I feel comfortable laying points. I do.
Okay, cool. Marco, I know you have a really awesome team that you're ready to give up for your best bet.
Hey, I'm staying in the state of Michigan, and I'm going with the powerhouse.
High profile.
It's the Battle of Michigan, East versus Central, and we're going to go with Eastern Michigan. And first of all, if I'm head coach Chris Creighton, I am punching my athletic.
Did you have to Google who the head coach was?
No, it's right here on my screen.
Oh, I hate that whenever I look at these little schools.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
who are these guys?
And his athletic director scheduled the first 5 games of the season for them. They started 3 in a row on the road.
Oh, God.
Finally had their home opener in their last game, and now back out on the road. 4 of 5 to open the season on the road. In those 3 games that they opened the season, they had a cupcake at first. Not really a cupcake, but Coastal Carolina, okay? They go on the road, and they win at Coastal Carolina. Then they have an SEC team at Kentucky. Then they have a Big Ten team at Illinois. Now, not the top of the cream of the crop, but still Power 5 conferences. In that last one, the Illinois game, they go in there and they win.
Yes, they did.
That's a huge win for this program. And remember, these schools in the MAC, a lot of these kids wanted to be in the Big Ten. Okay,
it's the same geographic region, and they just didn't get there.
They didn't get it. So they play with chips on their shoulders when they play those types of teams, and that was a huge win. So what happens? They finally come home for their home opener, and it was against Central Connecticut State. Don't ask me who the head coach is there, okay? I won't know that one. And they barely get by as a 33-point favorite. So now the public's going to say, they're going to look and say, hey,
they forgot about everything else.
yeah, what? You only got by Central Connecticut State? Well, this is their conference opener. Yeah, it's on the road, but they're playing a team, Central Michigan.
Are these 2 rivals, or is it them in Western Michigan? Sorry, I'm not from that area. My best friend went to Central, so I need to ask her.
They get up for all of them. I don't know who the true
directional rivalries are.
I couldn't tell you either.
But this is a spot where now you're looking at Central Michigan, who was coming off of a rivalry game last week, because Central played Michigan last week. So they got all of the Michigans covered here in the 2-week set. They played. That final score wasn't as close. They got the push, or depending when you played that game earlier in the week, you got a win with Central Michigan last week. This is a spot where they, not once but twice in the fourth quarter, got the backdoor cover. They had the backdoor cover, and then they gave up the lead again and weren't covering, and then they went down in the final 2 minutes and got another touchdown to get the cover. Eastern Michigan is going to blow the doors off of them. The Central Michigan team is not good. I like this one. Take it, if you got to close your eyes and hold your nose, whatever you got to do to get to the window, to lay points on the road with Eastern Michigan, do it. This is their conference opener. Last week was a total, absolute flat spot for them. You'll see the real Eastern Michigan. I like them. I'm laying the points. I've got them winning by 2 touchdowns.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's college edition of Bet On It show as much as we did doing it. Gosh, I can't even read. If you are not a subscriber to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and there's a little bell in the upper right-hand corner. You can get notifications, so you're always going to be the first to know when next week's show is out. Also, please be sure to share our show with all of your friends on social media, and don't forget to check out the NFL edition of the Bet On It show. Till next week, let's bet on it.